We are currently pretending that a 2.6-ton battery on wheels is saving the planet, while mechanics are literally hoarding 30-year-old diesel trucks just to have something that actually works. Look, we live in an era of absolute automotive delusion. Every day, some Silicon Valley tech bro tries to convince you that tapping a lifeless, greasy iPad screen to adjust your air conditioning is somehow the pinnacle of human innovation. Hear me out? It's not. It is cost-cutting masquerading as progress. We are being force-fed heavy, soulless appliances with fake engine noises pumped through cheap speakers, built to be thrown away the second their proprietary software stops updating. But then you stumble across something like this. What we are looking at today in Poland at the Carlex headquarters is the antithesis of the modern disposable car culture. This is the Carlex G-Wagon Yachting Vintage Edition, based on the Mercedes-AMG G63. When I first saw photos of this thing, I legitimately thought it was AI generated. The proportions, the materials, the absolute audacity of the build, it looked too ridiculous to be real. But standing in front of it, it is a stark, heavy, metallic reminder of what actual mechanical engineering and bespoke craftsmanship look like. Let's get the foundational engineering out of the way first, because you need to understand the sheer defiance of physics happening here. Underneath this vintage aesthetic is the beating heart of a modern G63. That means a 4.0-liter bi-turbo 5.8 engine violently producing 585 horsepower. We are talking about internal combustion in its most unapologetic form. This isn't a silent, sterile electric motor whirring away in a sealed vacuum. This is a complex, mechanical symphony of forged pistons, aggressive camshafts, and twin turbochargers sitting right inside the hot V of the engine block, generating enough heat to melt lead, all meticulously managed by heavy-duty cooling systems built to last decades. When a car weighs over 2.5 tons, the laws of physics are not your friend. If you slap a 2.6-ton lithium-ion battery pack into a modern EV, you are obliterating your tires every 10,000 miles because the instantaneous, soulless torque shreds the rubber compound to pieces. But here, the weight is structural. It is a ladder frame chassis. It is solid axles and heavy-duty differentials designed for military applications, repurposed to handle 585 horsepower of raw mechanical force. This vehicle isn't heavy because it's carrying a toxic chemical battery. It's heavy because it is built out of thick steel, solid wood, and real aluminum. Now, let's talk about what Carlex has actually done to the exterior, because this isn't just another lazy aftermarket body kit. Everyone and their mother makes a wide-body G-Class these days. Usually, it's some horrific, aggressive, jagged plastic meant to look sporty on a vehicle that has the aerodynamic profile of a brick. Carlex went the opposite route. They widened this truck by 10 centimeters. 5 centimeters on each side, using real carbon fiber. But here's the kicker, and it's something I deeply respect. They painted over the carbon fiber. Do you understand the restraint that takes? Modern car culture is obsessed with exposed, raw carbon fiber to shout to the world how much money was spent. Carlex used carbon for its structural rigidity and weight savings, and then buried it under paint because exposed carbon completely ruins the vintage aesthetic they were going for. That is proper coach building. Speaking of the paint, look at this two-tone finish. We have a black matte finish on the bottom half, contrasting violently with this incredible silver top. But that silver isn't just a standard metallic spray job. It is a hand-scratched aluminum look that has been meticulously crafted and then clear-coated. The tactile feedback of running your hand over this bodywork is something you will never, ever get from a mass-produced, robot-painted electric crossover. They added an additional pinstripe perfectly separating the two tones, wrapping completely around the vehicle. And then there's the front end. Look closely at the hood. Mercedes-Benz, in their infinite corporate wisdom and panic over pedestrian safety regulations, stripped the iconic standing star from almost all their modern cars. It's a tragedy. But Carlex brought it back. Sitting proudly on the bonnet of this G63 is a standing Mercedes star. Imagine driving this rolling fortress, staring down the massive flat hood, and seeing that star leading the way like a crosshair. It is an immediate psychological throwback to the 1980s and 90s. An era when a Mercedes-Benz was built by engineers with unlimited budgets, not by accountants obsessed with profit margins. To complement that, they completely ripped out the factory grille. It's been replaced with a custom stainless steel setup featuring the Carlex emblem and a beautifully integrated Yachting Edition badge. The front bumper isn't cheap plastic. You can literally tap on it and hear the dense metallic thud of stainless steel and aluminum. The chrome finish, the brushed metal details, it's borderline psychotic in its perfection. Let's move down to the unsprung mass, because the wheels dictate the entire stance of a vehicle. We are sitting on 20-inch wheels. Now, in a world where luxury SUVs are rolling out of the factory on ridiculous 23 or 24-inch wheels wrapped in rubber band tires that bend. If you look at a pothole wrong, a 20-inch wheel is a breath of fresh air. But these aren't just any wheels. They're a bespoke vintage design with solid metal wheel covers. And the tires? Actual white rubber. Not a painted-on white wall, but a deep structural vintage design. The ride quality benefits massively here. You actually have a sidewall to absorb the impact of the road, meaning the suspension doesn't have to work overtime to compensate for a lack of tire profile. Moving to the rear, the madness continues. Carlex didn't just slap a massive, obnoxious exhaust system on it. They gave it 3 specific exhaust tips per side, finished in pure stainless steel. The exhaust setup has been slightly modified by Carlex, meaning it retains that deep, guttural AMG V8 rumble, but breathes just a little bit better. It doesn't sound synthesized. It doesn't sound like a video game. It sounds like controlled explosions happening thousands of times a minute, because that is exactly what is happening. On the back door, the spare tire cover perfectly matches the 20-inch vintage wheels on the ground. But as shocking as the exterior is, the interior is where you realize how deeply flawed modern automotive design has become. Open the heavy bank vault door of this G-Class, and you're hit with the smell of genuine, high-grade leather and real wood. There is no vegan leather, recycled plastic nonsense here. This is an interior built for tactile satisfaction. The seats are wrapped in a stunning beige cream leather, completely reshaped from the stock AMG frames to look more like the helm seating of a luxury yacht. The perforation in the leather isn't punched by a cheap machine. It is cut by laser, perfectly precise, across every single panel. Look up. The entire roof is finished in thick Alcantara, segmented with heavy, pronounced stitching that features the Yachting Edition signature motif. They even completely re-engineered the steering wheel. It's an AMG flat-bottom wheel, but retrimmed in the highest quality leather with perfectly executed perforated grips. But here's where things cross the line from luxury into absolute lunacy. The floor. Pull up the standard cheap factory carpets, and what do you find? Wood. Solid American Walnut wood flooring. They took the floor of a multi-million-dollar maritime vessel and bolted it into a ladder frame off-road truck. The sheer weight penalty of doing this is massive. Wood is dense, wood is heavy. In any normal car, adding solid wood flooring would ruin the power-to-weight ratio and completely compromise the handling. But in a 585 horsepower G-Wagon that already weighs as much as a small moon, it doesn't matter. The laws of physics have already been thrown out the window, so why not lean into the excess? Go to the trunk space, open that massive rear door, and the entire cargo area is lined with the same American Walnut. They even included 2 custom bags made from the same wood. And on either side of the trunk floor, sailors' cleats, actual metal cleats used to tie down a yacht to a dock. Are you ever going to use them? Absolutely not. If you put a muddy pair of boots or a dirty off-road tire on this floor, you are committing a crime against craftsmanship. It is entirely form over function, and I respect it purely because it requires zero compromise. This level of obsessive detail is what happens when you step away from mass production. Carlex operates on 3 tiers: vintage, which is unlimited; limited, which restricts the production run; and one-offs, where they build exactly 1 vehicle for a client and throw away the mold. This Yachting edition falls into a space where true individuality still exists. When you sit in the driver's seat, surrounded by real wood, heavy stainless steel, and laser-cut leather, and you press the ignition button, the vehicle shudders, the V8 fires up, the 3 exhaust tips bark into life, and you feel the mechanical vibration through the steering column. You put it in Sport Plus, the throttle response sharpens, and the suspension tightens. You aren't operating a computer algorithm, you are commanding a heavy piece of machinery. You are connected to the road, to the engine, and to the environment in a way that modern EV drivers will simply never understand. We are losing this. We are losing the mechanical soul of the automobile to aggressive government mandates and corporate greed disguised as environmentalism. We are being told that a heavy, silent battery pack is the future, while vehicles like this, hand-built, heavily engineered, mechanically robust masterpieces, are vilified. But a G-Wagon built like this will still be running in 40 years. The engine can be rebuilt, the wood can be polished, the leather can be reconditioned. It is a permanent fixture in the automotive landscape. Meanwhile, that 2.6-ton EV everyone is raving about today will be rotting in a scrapyard in 10 years because the cost to replace the degraded battery will exceed the value of the vehicle itself. So, yes, a vintage-style G-Class with American Walnut floors and a standing hood star is absurd. It is expensive, it is heavy, and it is entirely unnecessary. But it is real. It is a visceral, tactile, mechanical triumph in a world that is desperately trying to force us into numb digital submission. If this is the dying breath of the internal combustion era, then what a spectacular, roaring way to go out.